Finishers and factions catching action.
Right, welcome everyone to this week's Raw edition of Finishers and Factions. We are live from Atlanta with Raw this week, and Atlanta, as it was mentioned, is the home of wrestling in America by the looks of it.
So yeah, we're out of the State Farm Arena, and I mean Atlanta's been fabled for wrestling, but if we just look at WWE, I mean, there's been 9 PLEs, including a WrestleMania. That's an insane.
Wasn't there? There's 2 WrestleManias in Atlanta. It's 2002 and 2010. No, sorry, 2 real Royal Rumbles in Atlanta, which was 2002, 2010, and had WrestleMania 32 was there. The interesting thing I found from this, there had been 25 episodes of Monday Night Raw out of Atlanta.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an insane amount, realistically.
Theoretically, a half-year content just coming out of one city.
True. But yeah, we won't get too bogged down in stats for Raw.
No, I've got one more stat for tonight though for you. There was 12,432 members of the WWE universe in addition, in attendance at the State Farm Arena.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What an amount of people.
Right, especially for the last Raw before Royal Rumble. That was incredible attendance.
Yeah, definitely. And we started this Raw off with a recap of Saturday night's main event from Saturday previous. So and yeah, we've
covered that. The episode is up on the podcast, ready and waiting for you to listen to.
I'm not going to lie, I had a moment there where I thought, did we do an episode on that?
We did do it.
I genuinely couldn't remember. And then we moved on to an in-ring promo with Seth freaking Rollins,
winner of the 2019 Royal Rumble,
and the 2014 Money in the Bank winner as well.
He was.
If we're going to start listing off his championships, we're going to be here all day.
Oh, that'd be short form content, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Once we get there, we'll get there. But the one thing that I'm not going to say impresses me because I'm not in any way, shape, or form impressed by it, but my fucking God, the wardrobe this man has. What the hell was this thing that he was wearing? It looked like a curtain design. It genuinely did.
Seth Rollins looks like he's got an addiction to LSD because some of the outfits he wears, you would need to be on acid to want to put them together.
Yeah, this is it. And it's something that you only really wear once and then probably burn afterwards.
Yeah, that's a dodgy 80s birthday party outfit, and he brings that back week in, week out.
Oh, he brings a different one in. He brings a different one back week in, week out. But yeah, I mean, it was nice to see Seth Rollins. We haven't seen him since the Raw after his
lost to CM Punk.
CM Punk, and it's nice to see that his eyes recovered. It's not anywhere near as holy shit as it was when we first saw it.
Well, he did describe it as he had a bruise the size of Georgia underneath his eye, and he was not wrong.
No, he was not at all. But
he was basically on about his Royal Rumble, really, wasn't he? He kind of came in and said that he was going to win it, like everyone else has for the last sort of week or so, and that he was starting his road to redemption, and the start of that was beating Drew McIntyre last week, and then it kind of moved on swiftly to where he was going after he's won the Royal Rumble. I loved the comedy factor in this. So he'd finished talking about Cody Rhodes, and as soon as he mentioned whether it was Gunther he was going after, the impeccable timing of Gunther's music hitting was just perfect.
Well, Gunther seems a little bit desperate to be relevant at the moment. Seems to be where he seems to be heading toward is that he obviously tried to. it almost sounds bad when you have to say that a world heavyweight champion had to sort of piggyback off Jey Uso's hype
Hmm.
in the last couple of weeks. And yeah, just I mean, speaking of Gunther and Jey Uso, I mean, he does. Once Gunther makes it to the ring, he does. He does what all WWE wrestlers do, and despite the fact that the match that they had
Was an
between Jey
incredible
Uso and
match.
Gunther was an incredible match, he's still downplaying the fact that, oh yeah, I beat him with ease, but
When you watch the
at the
match
end
or
of,
listen to the podcast from that episode, you know that wasn't the case. Jay pretty much had him down, and he was lucky to walk away with that title.
yeah, and the look on Gunther's face at the end of that match says it all. Realistically, it's not.
But then when you're playing that heel section, you know, obviously in that feud between Gunther and Jey Uso, with how over Jay is, you're not going to be able to get him to play a heel field. So Gunther's having to try and play that, and it's probably not one of his stronger points, which you really kind of sometimes come to doubt because a lot of his character and the way he builds his character is very heelish. Can't imagine Gunther running around yeeting and doing all the funny things that some of the faces do.
No, I think he's. It's going to take a lot for people to see him as a face if he ever makes it that far. But yeah, Gunther comes out basically calling Rollins. He calls Rollins out a lot in this initial exchange, just saying, I got down here that he was. He practically accused Rollins of being washed up. Um, Obviously calling Rollins out on taking his eye off the ball as far as championships go, which yeah, I mean I can't really argue that. I can't really argue against that second lot,
No.
or that second lot. It's yeah, it's a case that he's not really chased championship gold for a couple of months because he's been too
He's been
by
distracted
all of this.
with the bloodline stuff. The bloodline stuff's taken over a lot of characters and a lot of their title runs.
Yeah, it has, and we tend to see this with big factions as well. Is that they do have a tendency to sort of have a massive gravity pulling all of them, pulling a lot of wrestlers in to their storyline.
But it has done a lot of them quite well, though, because some of these wrestlers that have been pulled in, you wouldn't necessarily see in a storyline at that time. So it has benefited quite a lot of the locker room having this incredible storyline with the bloodline. And as much as a lot of us have got fed up with Roman, Solo, Roman, it was an incredible storyline.
Oh yeah, 100%, and they played it all off to an absolute T. And I'm actually interested to find out what or if we see any more of Solo Sikoa after this.
Well, I saw something funny on Facebook after Monday Night Raw saying that apparently Solo Sikoa was signing with AEW, which I thought was brilliant. But it was just one of those like...
There's been a lot flying around saying that Solo has just he's fucked off. He's just gone. He's gone from the WWE. He's decided no, not doing it anymore. He has taken his toys and gone home.
Oh, are we going to hear about that in a CM Punk promo in 5 years' time?
Quite possibly.
The return of Solo Sikoa as the people's person.
But yeah, I mean, this exchange between Gunther and Rollins, we're seeing Gunther begging for a challenge, and this sort of it takes a lot of the wind out of the sails of a heavyweight champion to have to beg for challenges.
Yeah, you'd have thought if you were, that good of a champion that everyone would want to face you, but it feels like no one really wants to. There's no progression of his storyline apart from him trying to jump off other people's hype train and trying to get a fight that way.
Yeah, and this is how it's coming across at the moment. So I'm not sure if this is the storytelling or if it is the writing or what's going on, but I think they need to have a massive shake-up with Gunther to try and get him something decent for WrestleMania, because otherwise it's going to just be a throwaway match.
Yeah, and talking about throwaways, one of WWE's worst possible acquisitions made his reappearance during this segment as well. That
Well,
much of a his return.
this was his it was his debut on the on Raw on Netflix.
Yeah, well, Logan Paul decided he was going to come and join the conversation, and on Facebook, again, just after I saw this episode air, there is a video clip of Seth Rollins saying to Gunther, like, who the fuck's music is that? Who's that?
Well, yeah, nobody knew who it was, and I mean, the minute he showed his smug, arrogant fucking face, the entire arena erupted with boos, and I mean,
I'm not sure who's more
again,
hated at the moment. Like Logan Paul, Kevin Owens, or Hulk Hogan. They all seem to be receiving some incredibly large boos from the WWE universe. So,
I mean, I can understand. I mean, I can understand Hulk Hogan. Don't get me wrong. I can understand Kevin Owens, and I can also understand Logan Paul. I mean, me and you have had conversations before we even started doing the podcast about Logan Paul and the way that he came into WWE. Is that
he hasn't paid his dues.
Issue.
Yeah, Logan Paul hasn't paid his dues, and he should not be on the flagship show. He should be down earning the respect of the rest of the roster down in NXT and doing it properly like the other guys have that are currently on the main roster. Seth Rollins being one of them.
I mean, credit given where credit is due. He has done phenomenally well for somebody that hasn't got a massive amount of in-ring wrestling experience.
So for someone who's basically paid for the experience, he's multi-millionaire. I mean, he's basically just said to Vince, look, there's a couple of million, let me be a superstar for a little while. Vince has gone, yeah, sure. Now Vince isn't there, they're still having to bail out a contract that's already been signed.
Well, no, because he's recently signed a new. He was on a part. He was almost on like a part-time contract beforehand, whereas now he is very much, and he is making it known that he is that he's
going full-time and
he is WWE wrestler through and through. And do you know what? If he can pull it off and actually starts sort of earning some like
brownie points with the locker room,
then fair play. I will start shutting up about how much I hate the guy, but it's honestly my big. I will continue to say it for as long as I have to look at his smug, arrogant face. The guy just didn't. He hasn't done the work.
No, he hasn't.
I mean, you look at any other. I mean, the other two guys in the ring with him, both of them came up through NXT. Both of them were in the Indies beforehand, and put years of their lives into that, into getting to where they've gotten to, and I'm not even entirely sure if Logan Paul ever had any even dark matches.
I'm not sure.
Let alone the fact that he hasn't been through Indies, he hasn't been through NXT. It's okay. I mean, he hasn't even gone anywhere close to NXT, and I doubt that, unless he starts having a real downturn in any sort of reaction from the crowd, I don't think they'll ever put him there, to be honest.
No, but talking about guys that have been through NXT and paid their dues and done incredibly well to it, I think that might be a great opportunity to move us on to our first match of the day.
Well, let's cover a few other bits, because I did go on a bit of a Logan Paul hate rant. So Logan Paul has declared himself for the Rumble.
He has.
And Gunther wants Paul to win the Rumble. So he wants Logan Paul to win the Rumble, only so Logan Paul chooses to face Gunther at WrestleMania, and Gunther gets to slap the living shit out of him. Which, to be quite honest, I'm not against.
No, I'd watch
If
that.
that's the storyline they build, happy days, because I would will pay money to watch that phenomenal German guy just lash the living shit out of him.
Mhm.
And we also found out Rollins wants to embarrass Gunther, so they all really just want to embarrass each other, which, you know what, I'm not against.
I'm not either.
We also had went from there to a backstage promo with or a backstage sort of interview promo with the Second City Saint, CM Punk.
Yes.
Before we move on to the first match, is this
I don't have any notes for this
something
conversation with
you've got
CM Punk.
in your note?
No, I'm literally just pulling yours up for a quick second because
Fair enough. Because we've got another promo before this as well that I made a note of. So they start off. It's CM Punk being interviewed by Kathy Kelly, one of the backstage interviewers for Monday Night Raw. They're
yes.
just talking about how much of a stacked field for the Rumble it is.
Well, it is one of the
CM Punk. It's
very
he's
stacked
just
field.
unapologetic. 100%. I mean, some of the names that have been declared for the Rumble. I mean, we're looking at the likes of LA Knight, John Cena, Jey Uso, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Rey Mysterio,
Sami Zayn, did you
Bron
point out?
Breakker, Sami Zayn's in there, Shinsuke Nakamura, Logan Paul, Chad Gable.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even going to mention Carmelo Hayes because he's not really a heavy hitter, but still.
Well, they call him the Marshmallow for a reason.
Mello never misses.
Yeah, Mello's just
gets in the ring.
soft and cuddly.
But CM Punk unapologetically confident, which we've come to expect from him. Well,
He's just
ever since
cocky,
he got
isn't
in
he?
the ring, realistically.
Yeah, CM Punk has been cocky since he started professional wrestling. Whether that be down in the Indies, OVW, or Raw, wherever he's just been a cocky son of a gun. I love it. Massive Punk fan,
of
me.
course. Of course. We're also introduced to Sami Zayn on Monday Night here for it as well, who wanted to respond to Punk's comment from last week where he'd said that Sami Zayn just wasn't even on his level.
Yeah, and I think Punk it wasn't necessarily he did aim it directly at Sami, but he was just saying in general, like, he's head and shoulders above the rest of the locker room right now, and no one else is gonna touch him. But Sami Zayn did point out something I quite enjoyed, and now I've spotted your notes, it's kind of refreshed me. It was the you've just got to remember one thing, mate. I'm a WrestleMania main eventer, and you're not. And Punk's face after the end of that was very much like, okay, someone's just pipe bombed me for once. That's not normally how this goes.
Yeah, and he very much pipe bombs it because he does. He pretty much says that walks away and walks away.
Does one, doesn't he? But he bumped straight into Karrion Kross, doesn't he?
He does, and this is sort of interesting to find out what Karrion Kross's role's going to be now, because I think we've been given a little glimpse of it with this second half of this promo. Just because obviously he did a lot of work with the Wyatt Six, he was well and truly his head, and they've both been moved over
SmackDown.
to Friday Night SmackDown now.
Yeah, so are we going to see Karrion Kross trying to help Sami Zayn accomplish this fact that he's not really had much of a singles run for a while? Maybe someone's going to have Sami's back instead of Sami having everyone else's back.
I think this is what it's going to turn into, but at the minute, Zayn is playing very much hard to get. He's very Kross in Kross's attempt to get in his head, and I think we've got a Sami Zayn heel turn accompanied by Kross on the horizon, which
I'd love to see that.
Is very interesting.
Yeah, so we see a lot of Sami Zayn in a face role. and generally, like with the way his character has been built over the last decade, that was the way it's always been. He has tried pulling up, and he's pulled off heel reasonably well with it. But I think this time we could have quite a serious, like quite a dark Sami Zayn heel turn. Be interesting to see who he turns on to make that push, though. I think it could be a member, like someone of the bloodline. I think it could be someone like Roman or
Well,
someone like
there's
that sort
loads
of area.
there's loads of candidates for Sami Zayn to turn on. I mean, one of them after Cross talks about sort of urging Sami Zayn to take the opportunities that are at his feet and not to turn any of them down, then walks away. We
Yep.
then have Cody Rhodes joining Sami Zayn in frame, and they have probably one of the shortest exchanges I think I've ever seen on the back end of a promo. And all you're left with really is Sami Zayn walks away, and and Cody Rhodes just he looks genuinely scared for Sami Zayn there. I mean, I think he's seen part of the exchange with Karrion Kross. We all know Karrion Kross is up to no good, and I think there's some genuine concern for WWE champion.
Yep. And then we went from there into a ringside promo with A-Town Down Under introducing themselves to the Raw crowd and just trying to throw some shade wherever they can, to be fair.
Yeah, we had a lot of like Georgia seems to be very much a hotbed for rap artists and things like that. I mean, I'm not generally very into rap music, so to be honest, I didn't really recognize any of them.
Recognise
but
2
something like
Chainz'
Chainz-
name, but apart from that, that was about it.
Yeah, that was about the extent of mine as well. The only thing that I saw in common with every single one of these artists, these rap artists that they introduced us to, was
Please tell me it was the
they
Teeth
were
Grill.
all. Well, yes, it was. It was the fact that none of them appeared to have their own. They all looked like George from James Bond.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more tanned.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's A-Town Down Under doing
You keep cutting out.
what they do, which is being which is just being themselves, being an arsehole, pretty much.
Yeah.
Um,
Then
we
step into match 1,
we do.
which was the.
This was
This was an interesting one because obviously we're recording this after Monday Night Raw is aired, and due to my busy week this week, I've actually seen a lot more on Facebook before recording of these. This match I was intrigued to watch purely for the fact that I wanted to see how a certain incident happened, and we'll talk about that later. But this was War Raiders and Judgment Day for the Raw Tag Team Championship, and it was the War Raiders' first defense of the championship since they won it 6 weeks ago.
I was going to say they've had it a hell of a long time to have not defended it just yet, but I think we had it alluded to us in the weeks gone by that they've been sort of fraught with injury and all the rest of it. And I mean,
well, throughout the match,
Eric
they were
and
busy
Ivar.
talking about the injuries that Eric and Ivar have had, and I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head. I think it was Ivar, but he is only one of 2 wrestlers to have had a certain type of neck surgery to still be able to wrestle since. The other one of those being the Rated R superstar Edge, as he was formerly known. I think he's going under the name of the Rated R Cope at the moment in AEW.
Yeah, something like that, possibly. But yeah, this. I mean, on paper, it doesn't. Or you look at this as it is, and this match is looking more and more like a bit of a squash match. I mean, we've got Judgment Day in JD McDonough and Dirty Dominic Mysterio versus the War Raiders, Eric and Ivar, and I'm sorry, Eric and I mean Ivar on his own lesson, I'm pretty sure he could have flattened.
I mean, I'm pretty sure one of them on their own weighs more than Dom and JD put together anyway, even with JD's massive head, which was referred to multiple times by the announce table.
Yeah,
I mean, the correlation
these
between
lads
that.
they big boys.
They
big
are
boys.
big boys, and you got to think some of these guys go through a severe level of pain anyway. But one thing I do want to shout out and point out is that JD McDonough he got hurt quite badly in that match. You wouldn't know it considering he finished the match. But at one point, he hit a rather beautiful moonsault off the outside of the ring, missed his mark, bless him, and smashed his neck onto the announce table. And I think if that had been anyone else, that would have been a broken neck moment right there. Like, the impact off that made me wince. I'm not going to lie, I had to look away for a second. And I've seen it a few times. It was horrible. The fact that he finished that match was incredible. I'd have just laid on the floor like a bitch going, I ain't moving, fuck you. X, like, get me out of here.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we'll give shit for JD McDonough until... Yeah, he's a bit of a chicken shit, but in regard of this match, the fact that and it came out after Raw had finished airing in the days that follow, that JD McDonough, despite the fact that he cracked the back of his head off a reinforced announce table, as they like to keep mentioning, the injuries he actually sustained were a couple of broken ribs and a punctured lung.
I mean, how that adds up I can't think of at all, because he make me feel rough just thinking about it. But yeah, he hit his head hard. So the fact he's got no neck injury, no concussion, no whiplash, no nothing like that is very, very surprising.
Well, the War Raiders dragged him around like a rag doll from his head on several different occasions during this match.
Well, there was a kick to the back of the head at one point as well. Was it a knee to the back of the head? Looked like meant to be a backbreaker, but got it slightly... Don't like using the word botch, but mismove. It didn't look like it hit the shoulders like he was supposed to have done, and yeah, he hit JD right in the back of the noggin again.
So commentary said that this went right to the back of his neck. I remember watching this and being really sort of meticulous. It does actually hit him square between the shoulder. It's still going to hurt but not quite to the same extent as it would do if it was just straight to the back of the neck.
Move your mic a bit closer.
Eric coming to, let's try that again. Eric is not a light guy, as we've already mentioned. I mean, Ivar is the bigger, so Eric is, Eric coming down on the back of your neck. That is definitely result in a broken neck, regardless.
Yeah. It wasn't, it was a... War Raiders ragged them around, but I will give credit where credit's due. JD managed to get through that match. I don't know how, and Dom managed to do a very, very good job of keeping the brunt of it off JD. Like, Dom took some impressive spots and some impressive bumps just to try and kind of help the poor guy, but you could see every time JD took a move, he was going straight to his ribs and clutching at the end of it. So, I say all respect for JD there, and for Dom for making sure his mate didn't take too much of a hard time.
Yeah, just a few spots I want to call out on this match. Ivar with a sensational handspring back elbow point during this match. Being the biggest guy in the ring at that time, you do not expect a man of his size to move in that way, and it was absolutely beautiful.
It was fantastic.
We also had a Carlito interference.
Just runs in and spits the apple in his face. Quality.
Oh, he spits in the face of anybody who does not wish to be cool. we had Dom Mysterio eventually hit a 619, and yeah, War Raiders narrowly avoid a loss off the back of that 619, I believe it was. Carlito tries to get involved again, gets absolutely hammered, and the War Raiders hit War Machine to retain via pin. But yeah, the big takeaway from this match was the absolutely phenomenal fortitude of JD McDonough to basically say, no, I know I'm hurt, but I am carrying on regardless.
Yeah, fair play to him there. From one Mysterio into a backstage segment with Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, was it?
So I've got a backstage promo with Pete Dunne and Ludwig Kaiser, which I think goes.
Yeah, they were hinting at a possible feud between the two of them. That would be something I could get down with.
Well, yeah, I mean, Pete Dunne had he had an interesting Raw last week where he was
on the receiving end of a Penta beatdown, wasn't he?
Well, he was complaining about being irrelevant and feeling ignored, and during the middle of this promo actually got cut off by an ad break, which I'm not sure was I'm not entirely certain was intentional, but one of the highlights of my Raw last week was watching Pete Dunne get cut off halfway through telling us that he feels as though he's been ignored.
Yeah, I think that was very well worked into that specific storyline, but I don't think it was done on purpose. Someone got in trouble for that.
I think they've made the best of a bad situation on that one, quite frankly. But
yes.
But yeah, they Kaiser and Dunne are basically discussing that and Dunne's match last week. They're interrupted by the New Day, who, by the looks of it, are just trying to sort of ingratiate themselves to Dunne and Kaiser. I think they're looking for some. I genuinely think they're looking for some support from backstage at this point.
Well, they're not really getting much support for the way they ousted Big E, so they're not really going to have a huge positive effect there. We've seen in previous weeks that Kofi Kingston's family have basically told him, take a hike. You did Big E dirty, so we're not going to allow you to do that. And then, Xavier Woods has got his match with Rey Mysterio later on in the evening, and he's already talking about having his family front row and, how the favourite son of Atlanta. Everyone seems to be Atlanta's favourite son this week.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the interviewer, bless her, manages to keep a straight face all the way through, listing off the different.
Braun Breaker? No. Austin Theory. Cody Rhodes. I think she was sat there trying to see how many more she could think of before she eventually had to let Kofi kind of go, no, it's my boy, Xavier Woods.
But it was the fact that Kofi refers to Cody as a paper champion. That was something I latched onto, and I was actually, is this potentially going to be another hint at a singles championship for Kofi in the future? Maybe that he's getting quite antagonistic.
I don't know, but Xavier's got a spring in his step at the moment, and slightly unrelated, but a former friend of his has recently become single as well, so we could get a part 2 to that favourite video of all of ours too.
I know what you're talking about.
For those of you who are into wrestling but not 100% sure of the joke, Saraya Knight, more commonly referred to as Paige when she was a WWE superstar, had a rather interesting evening with Xavier Woods and Brad Maddox many years ago. Her and Ronnie Radke have just split up, and Xavier's got one hell of a spring in his step again. So yeah, like I said, we could get a part 2 to that rematch.
Yes, definitely. But I've got a feeling I've got some more notes around later on in the episode, man. But for now, we're going to move on to match 2, which was a men's singles match between Rey Mysterio and Xavier Woods, who was accompanied out to the ring by one Kofi Kingston. So their match fell directly after this promo was cut, and it was a nice little segue into the match, I thought. One of the big things that came out during this match, or they made it quite a big deal, which I was a little bit confused about why they made it such a big deal going into this match, but it was the fact that this was Zelina Vega's very last Raw. She's being transferred over to SmackDown as of today. So hopefully we'll be seeing something more of Zelina Vega.
Yeah, no, hopefully. That could be an interesting one. But depends what they're going to do with her over on SmackDown to make sure that it's worth the move.
Yeah, definitely. They've got to work it in properly. But Mysterio was accompanied out to the ring by the LWO, including Zelina Vega. And during Xavier Woods' entrance, he seemed to really take issue with people touching him. Which
quite a few people have the last few days. Like the last few episodes of different promotional stuff, whether it be Raw, SmackDown, or NXT, I've noticed a few people getting a little bit annoyed at the fans touching them on the way down the ramp. I will say, though, most of them seem to be having an issue with the NXT guys, and that's because their entrance ramp is so small and it's so close to the crowd.
Yeah, it's also come out again, as Rick sort of alluded to earlier on. We are recording this on Friday, bearing in mind that obviously Raw goes out on a Monday, and it's come out over the last few days that even superstars like Asuka have been putting up social media posts making it seem like she's being potentially stalked or something along those lines, that she
You there?
Hello?
Yeah, no, you completely disappeared on us then, dude.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
I can see it. I can see it in the Discord channel. My mic is not always picking everything up.
No, I have noticed. That's why I did tell you to move it across earlier.
Yeah, which I honestly, apart from sticking it down my throat, I can't get it any closer to me.
We're back in the room. Okay, so we're going to jump back in with Rey Mysterio and Xavier Woods after we had a bit of a backstage promo involving New Day just beforehand. So I haven't got a lot of notes for this specific match, but what I did make a note of was there was a lot of high-flying, fast-paced action pretty much from the get-go from both Rey and Xavier Woods. I must admit, I do want to throw out there that I have really enjoyed seeing Rey Mysterio back on a regular viewing card. I know as a Hall of Famer, he's done his time in the ring, and whether it be for WWE or he was at some of was it AAA Luchador at one point in Mexico. So he's definitely worked his way in and put his time in. But to see him back as a semi-active competitor doing his third week in a row now? Second week in a row.
So.
It's been nice to see, and even just when you get the occasional tease of a 619, but to be able to see the seated sentons, the Hurricane Ranas, and all the fact that he's getting on a little bit, and he's still managing to pull off moves that he was doing sort of 15 years ago when he first sort of bumped onto the scene, if not longer.
I was going to say I'm pretty sure he's been in WWE longer than that.
Yeah, it would not surprise me. We're
probably looking at 20 plus at least.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, this the Rey Mysterio versus Xavier Woods match. Yeah, really high flying, really nice to see Rey. Actually, quite enjoyed seeing a little bit from Xavier as well.
Yeah.
It's not somebody we see a massive amount of in-ring competition work for the last couple of years.
No, and even with the New Day, when they were working as a three-man under the, with the Freeman rule, or the Freebird rule, sorry, it was very often you saw Kofi and Big E with Xavier sort of out the side as a hype man. So to see him in between the ropes of the squared circle competing in a solo or a singles match was actually quite nice to see. And is it me, or has he got a little bit more stacked in the last few years?
He's definitely been putting the work in, and it's definitely showing.
Mm.
Some of the details, I got a few more notes probably than you did out of this match, mostly towards the story of the match. So one of the big bragging points Xavier during this match was that he had his family, his dad come out to.
Yeah, he was really excited about having his family there. As he was on about that in the promo at the start before he came out, wasn't he?
Yeah, very much so.
Wasn't not expecting it to go the way it did. I will point that one out. Well, I digress a little bit. We'll go into that a little bit more detail in a little while, I'm sure. But it was definitely an interesting matchup between the two. But one I wish I'd seen. I feel like I haven't seen a matchup like this in a while. So and I couldn't find anything in the research I did about the last time Rey Mysterio and Xavier Woods went one-on-one. So I think this could have been a first for both of them.
Yeah, I don't believe I've seen the two of them face off against one another. Certainly not against one another. It's also possible that they've, or very possible that they've definitely not met before.
No, I just had a quick Google. They have never met in a singles match.
But one thing I will say is that Rey seemed to really struggle to get going against Xavier Woods during this match. It was quite unusual to see. I mean, not necessarily unusual, but still not what we've come to expect.
We are used to Rey as he's got a little bit older, taking a little bit longer to work into some of these sort of high flying moves than we were, like say, sort of 20 years ago. I did just double check while we were talking about it. Rey Mysterio debuted in 2002, so he's been on the in the WWE for 23 years, and he was in ECW beforehand. So yeah, this guy has probably been competing as long as I've been breathing. So for us to see him getting a little bit older and slowing down a little bit isn't necessarily a nice thing to see, but you do know that once he's warmed up a little bit, when he does get going, you are going to get treated to classic Rey Mysterio. I will say, I hope Rey does the sensible thing in the future when he learns, when he gets to hanging up his boots, and he does it in a way where he's still got some good matches left if he wanted to, but he's not going week in, week out, because I'd hate to see Rey Mysterio end up in something like that absolute shit show in Saudi Arabia between the Brothers of Destruction and Generation X. I'd hate for his career to end that specific way. But I think personally, I don't think it'll be too long before we see him hang up his boots on a permanent basis. So I'm just going to enjoy watching him and watching what he's got while we can.
Yeah, and I think that's the way we've all got to sort of look at it at the minute. Is that we know he's not going to be, he's not got years and years and years left. It is a case that he is he is very much against the clock is very much against him in this case, but we have just got to sort of enjoy him while we've got him.
One thing I was a little bit confused about, and I will say this about this match, is neither Rey Mysterio nor Xavier Woods need a push. Right, they are both well-accomplished veterans of the squared circle. So, for me, it was interesting to kind of see where they're going to go with this. Obviously, Rey faced Kofi last week and beat him. He's got Xavier this week, and not sure where the outcome's going to be. Are we going to end up with a New Day versus LWO sort of future ahead? I could possibly see that coming, but I'm not entirely sure how they're going to work it for now.
It certainly seems to be building that way. I mean, I know the rivalry New Day and Rey Mysterio seem to have just sparked up out of nowhere. It seems to have been they have been, or Ray has been, the target of their frustration, I suppose is probably the best word to use.
And I can appreciate that, but when you've got those two veterans trying to take it out on another veteran, and someone who's so over as Ray as well, it's the ultimate heel turn. To, the heel action, so to speak, to take out or try and take out one of the best known faces in the business, and so far it hasn't worked.
No, definitely not. But if we delve into this match a little bit more, I mean, there were some fantastic spots with it. I mean, before the match, Kingston talking about really getting that cheap heat dig in about the Atlanta Falcons.
I love it when they bring the references like that, because the Atlanta Falcons this season have sucked. I mean, if you were to use a wrestling term to describe the Falcons, I'm pretty sure you could probably get away with using Booker T. Can you dig it, sucker? Because they did just suck. The Falcons this year have been terrible, and for them to use that is very much cheap heat, but it worked. It definitely worked.
One of the other things that I quite enjoyed thought it was very apt was that we've started referring to Rey Mysterio as the Gloat.
Yeah.
So we all know GOAT means greatest of all time.
But Gloat is the greatest luchador of all time.
Which, I mean, yeah, we're not going to find anybody that's going to fit better than.
I think if you were to really deep delve into like luchador history, especially the AAA promotion, I'm sure there's probably someone who has been slightly more successful in that promotion. But I think because Ray's covered it in not only WWE but ECW and the AAA as well. Yeah, I think apart from maybe Penta, who is not exactly a close second, he's very much the greatest luchador of all time.
Yeah, so Rey Mysterio brought Lucha Libre more to the mainstream in the professional wrestling world. Before, it was a very specialized type. It wasn't something a lot in mainstream promotion.
No. Which it's been nice to see, because you do get a lot of the Japanese pro wrestling has been very forthcoming in some areas of pro wrestling, but to be able to see the luchador stuff push out from a totally different area just makes, it is true. It's the World Wrestling Federation, or it used to be World Wrestling Entertainment now, but you have worldwide wrestling entities being brought in. It's not just a mat wrestling like you expect from the NCAA. You have got different aspects which make it so much better. So when you get guys like Shinsuke Nakamura come in and Io Sky and the Luchadors, it just rounds everything off perfectly.
Yeah, and Rey Mysterio was 100% been trailblazer for that. Is being able to have people like Io Sky and all of these fantastic Latin American, Mexican wrestlers that have and really embracing that lucha libre style, which is actually really exciting to watch. And,
it gives us the viewer something really to get excited about. And if you're a wrestling fan, and most of us that are listening to this will be, or at least know a little bit about it, the fact that you can have a really boring undercard, right? And it does not matter. You could have some phenomenal talents that just haven't really connected. But as soon as you throw in a masked guy like Rey Mysterio, the entire crowd they know what's coming. It just, the tension and the atmosphere automatically pick up. So it is always a bonus to see. And for one, will love to see how this continues and where it continues.
Definitely, but bringing it back to this match specifically, a lot of the storyline based stuff that I noted down was the beginning of this match. We were told that basically Woods' family hadn't turned up, that they weren't in the building, and then about halfway through the match, that they arrive, which seems to act as a bit of a distraction for Woods, as he's quite understandably upset that he invited his family and they turned up late, sort of thing. But
just turn up late. They turned up late and slapped him in the face by showing up in New Day Suck t-shirts, which I loved.
Oh,
I absolutely,
100%.
I loved it. And this is where the commentary team were very much trying to push the storyline on us that, now that Kofi Kingston's family have also kind of gone, nope, you did Big E dirty, we're out. Xavier Woods' family have very much done the same. You've done Big E dirty. Do on. We're not interested. And it's adding so many different aspects to this storyline that you would not necessarily think of adding in. So the writers, I will have to say, have done a fantastic section with this. And as much as I'm not... No, carry on.
This match ends with Rey Mysterio hitting the 619 and picking up a pinfall victory over Xavier Woods. But to add even more insult to injury, and this is just going to feed into a feud between the LWO and New Day moving forward. But the Rey Mysterio and LWO at the end of the match with the Woods family and Xavier being very much sort of left on the outside of that. So I think we're going to see a much darker heel side to the New Day coming forward, just because they've now had both of their respective families turn on them. It's bound to happen.
I mean, I know we've had in previous conversations how long the New Day have been around, and how much more they can bring to WWE. And fair credit to them, like, they keep pulling things out of the bag to make themselves semi-relevant. They're not as big as they were, when they were on the boxes of cereal and, WrestleMania main events and Royal Rumble hosts, and, they've done an awful lot. But are we starting to see, like, they've got rid of Big E, obviously, because of that neck injury. He's no longer cleared to wrestle. Could we see the breakup of New Day with the way this is going? I know we hinted at, we said earlier there was a hint in there of a possible singles run for Kofi. So it'd be interesting to see, because New Day have been around for a long time. Time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it will be... We've had glimpses of Kofi past, and they were snuffed out pretty undramatically and unceremoniously. I've always said,
I think he deserved more.
So unfair to him.
Yeah, for a guy who's given so much of his career to WWE, for them to give him the title and then feed him to Brock Lesnar in a squash match was not fair. He did deserve more than that.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, moving on from that match, as I'm probably going to talk about it probably talk it to death to a certain degree. I've got down here that the next segment was a locker room promo between Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins.
You might be very well right. You might be. Is this
so? During this section, it was Sami Zayn coming to basically apologise after making a haluva mistake on last week's Raw.
He caught Seth with a nasty haluva kick as well, didn't he?
Oh, 100%. And Seth sort of explaining to Sami, look, I'm a bit salty about it, but it's a case that you're on your last chance. You've proven yourself in the past to be semi-unreliable sort of thing, and not really very trustworthy because of the affiliation he has with the Bloodline. And yeah, it's basically fool me once, shame on me twice, and
you can get your head kicked.
Pretty much.
And it's always a strange one, because I like Sami Zayn. I just think that what they've built his character to a certain point. He's at a crossroads now, and where they take him is one of two things. I think we could get a hell of a heel turn from him, and that would really make it pop. So we've got the stuff with Karrion Kross as well, which is probably where that heel turn is going to come from. But yeah, if he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, well, between the Bloodline and the rest of the roster, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think they're in the process of testing the water as to what's going to be believable, and they're just doing on-air screen tests almost.
Well, there wasn't the first
trying to
one
figure
they
out.
did this week. I don't know if you picked up on it, but I believe it was during the Ivor, the War Warriors match, where Michael Cole actually used the word bastard in his commentary. So I've noticed that they've been testing a lot more of what they can get away with in ring and on the microphone as well. And even I thought I was hearing things, but I'm obviously getting old now, and my eyesight's not as good as it used to be, so I have to put subtitles on for the wrestling, especially if Jacob Fatu's involved. And they quite clearly said in the subtitles "bastard" too. So yeah, no, they're definitely testing a few different bits out this week.
Yeah, definitely. And we knew this was going to happen. As they move more away from cable providers in the US, we'll start to see that vanity filter sort of slipping away a little bit. It's not going to be F this and F that and all the rest of it. It's not going to go to the degree, but it'll be that we'll start to see it filtering in a little bit more.
Yeah. We also, if the two of our notes line up correctly, had a nice little backstage promo with Rhea Ripley at this point as well. Have I missed a section?
So I'll be honest, the next thing that I've got was an in-ring promo for Jey Uso and a young gentleman, Quavo.
Yeah, that's where our notes don't line up, because I was looking at two different things. Yeah, so we've got Jey Uso and Quavo come out with lots and lots of yeets. Now, I had to try and do some research, because I know that according to the entry VT we were given, that Quavo is a rapper. But apart from that, I didn't know anything about him. So I had to do a bit of research. Apparently he's a Grammy-winning musician. But apart from kind of all I could find is that he'd done some work with Lana Del Rey, and that seemed to be sort of like the biggest thing musically he's done. He has been in a fair few movies as well. The Fast and the Furious. He was in Waterboys, and he was in last year's John Travolta film Cash Out as well. So he's done a fair few different things, but he's definitely getting out there for a gentleman who's actually only the same age as us.
Yeah, it's just a shame he's got another one with a mouth full of metal.
I don't personally understand this. I mean, nearly all my teeth are my own, but yeah, I don't know how comfortable it would be to have one of those grills put in with all the diamonds, and I mean, it's a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? But I suppose some of these guys are on a lot of money.
I can imagine it being something similar to like licking a battery or something. Surely you've just got constant metallic taste in your mouth, like your mouth's constantly bleeding. It just can't. It can't be good for you. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know it's not or anything like that, but it can't be. It can't do you good in the long run.
Well,
surely not.
A lot of these gentlemen, unfortunately, don't live huge lives. A lot of them end up losing their lives quite early, to be fair, due to gangland activities. Because a lot of the rap guys, what they rap about is their real life. You know, they're doing some of these things, and it's quite a brutal lifestyle if you listen to some of it. But...
Oh yeah, definitely. But we're not here to talk about rap live.
No, we are here to talk about Jey Uso announcing his entry into the Royal Rumble. He just happened to have Quavo out with him, which I think was a nice little hype thing. We've seen him come out with a few different musicians the last couple of weeks, and it's definitely helping.
I mean, I don't know who's raising whose profile as it stands at the moment.
I think Jey Uso's raising Quavo's profile. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is with me and you. Never have heard of Quavo before this point, I don't think, and probably won't think of him again afterwards. But in that moment, his profile's definitely been raised to the point that we are aware he exists, sort of thing.
Yeah. After we had quite a furious, Jey Uso wasn't very polite in the way he announced his entry into the Royal Rumble. He was quite mad about it and very. I don't know. He seemed pissed. Like, and I'm not sure if it's because Gunther's still disrespecting him after that hell of a match at Saturday Night Main Event, but yeah, he really did not seem happy about something today when he came out.
Well, he's not had a fantastic, despite the fact that he is one of, if not the most over superstar in WWE's rosters at the moment. He's not had a fantastic track record recently. He's lost more than he's won, and he's not really done very well when it comes to like title opportunities either.
I mean, he had that one, I say, Saturday Night Main Event against Gunther, and he gave him a hell of a match, and you can find some more details about that in our podcast episode. But coming into this, for someone who's so over, you'd expect him to have had that push to go with it. And yes, he's had a couple of title opportunities, but he's not. You'd have thought for what he is, they'd give it to him. Now, I said this last week, I'm going to say it again. I think they'll give it to him on the grandest stage of them all. I think if he's going to win a title this year, I think it'll be at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Do I think Jey Uso is going to win the Royal Rumble? I'm going to put my sixpence in here, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I think Jey Uso is winning the Royal Rumble this year.
I was going to say, Jey Uso is my favourite to win the Men's Rumble this year, just because that seems to be the most logical way that they will...
They can keep that Gunther storyline open then. He doesn't have to... As I don't see Jey going for Cody, I think they're going to set Cody and CM Punk up together, which will be an interesting one later on in the line. But no, I think they're going to let Jey win the Royal Rumble so they can keep... He'll choose Gunther, and that will keep that storyline going for the next 90-ish days. Well, I think it's about 85 by the time the Royal Rumble comes.
Yeah, this is it. It's if they're going to put a heavyweight championship on Jey Uso, they will do it where they've got the most amount of eyes on, and it will be a case that the easiest way to do that.
WrestleMania. And if you think about it as well, if you give Jey Uso that title at WrestleMania and you give him a heads up that he's getting that title at WrestleMania, so he can get a new merch line out as well, and they put that on at WrestleMania, so if they have him win the first night, the second night at WrestleMania, that merch store is going to get absolutely pounded for Jey Uso merch. Everyone on that Monday Night Raw after Mania will be running around with Jey Uso merch. Myself included. I'm probably going to end up ordering some in the next week or so.
Fair enough.
You?
Fair enough. But yeah, that's how I see that playing out, and we haven't got that long left to wait until we find out.
No, we haven't.
Pretty much.
We have not. We've not got long left to wait at all. From here, we had that sort of little segment out in the ring with Quavo. Well, I say out in the ring, it was more on top of the announce table. Where did you end up going from here? Because I've noticed again that my notes and your notes don't mix up. I've got Bianca Belair and Naomi versus Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. You've got a backstage promo with Rhea Ripley.
So that match is coming up, but we went from that in-ring promo to it was like a Pat McAfee little interview promo with Xavier Woods' family, just really driving that point home about the fact that the family have turned on Woods and.
So unfortunately this week where I've run out of time, all I've done is I've watched all the matches and I've skipped through, so I've missed a lot of the fillers for Monday Night Raw because I was so delayed this week due to having quite a busy week with work and picking up a new car. So my notes this week are diabolical. I've literally just watched the matches to say I've seen the matches to be able to chip in on those, but the promos and stuff I've not really seen a lot of.
This is where it's good to have my notes as well, then. So
yeah.
The next promo we had after that Pat McAfee interview promo, which was really just to sort of drive the point home. We had a backstage promo with Lyra Valkyria being interviewed by Jackie Redmond, and Lyra Valkyria has put herself in for the and
This women's
we'll
rumble
hear
is
that-
starting to look as stacked as the men's. There is some interesting names going into this female rumble, and obviously there's a few that haven't been mentioned that we are probably guessing are going to show up. Have we spoken about this yet? Right. So we have,
So-
when Seth Rollins entered at the start of the episode, there was a sign on the right hand side on the entry ramp saying, "Where's the man?" And Seth Rollins shrugged his shoulders and tapped his wrist like a watch. So to me, that was very much like you'll just have to wait and see, which I think could be a massive hint that we're going to see Becky Lynch on Saturday.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, that seems like a bit of a given. Not going to lie. We already know that we've got the likes of Nia Jax, Bailey, Charlotte Flair, Naomi,
Bianca Belair. Rhea's not in there.
No, Rhea is a champion.
Yep, she is.
Not enter the Rumble. We've got Lyra Valkyria now. We also get Ivy Nile of American Made. Also puts herself in for the Rumble during this little promo segment. And yeah, it's this sort of Lyra Valkyria is interrupted by American Made, who basically says, "Oh yeah, Ivy's going to be challenging for Lyra's championship," and they have a bit of an odd exchange where apparently Ivy's going to be winning it
for Chad Gable. Yeah, no, I saw that. It was a little bit like, Chad Gable looks like the sort of person who'd look good with a women's championship around his waist, because he does nothing but bitch and moan.
Yeah, pretty much, and we're still yet to find out who was on that piece of paper that Dominic Mysterio had passed to Chad Gable to try and get over his inability to beat a luchador.
We've speculated about this on the last previous episodes, and it has now been confirmed outside of an episode that Aleister Black is re-signing with the WWE. And as we know, Aleister Black has a history with luchador wrestling. For a guy his size to be able to do it is interesting. There's some fantastic videos on YouTube of Aleister Black doing some luchador style stuff. So it is increasing the rumor flow that Aleister Black could end up teaching Chad Gable some luchador, or how to deal with luchadors. For some reason, Dom Mysterio was coming into my head, but that was Dom gave Chad the name, didn't he? So that's where it was coming from.
Yeah, and then to sort of round this out, American Made way and walk straight into the Alpha Babes, which were formerly the Alpha Academy, being the only one I can ever name is Otis. I know the other guy was the guy that used to chase R-Truth around when he was carrying around the 24/7 championship with a couple of ninja in tow. It basically turns into a bit of a shouting match between Alpha Babes and American Made, where Chad Gable taunts Otis about the ankle, famously injured during their split, and basically calling them failures pathetic while they're stood in the middle of a corridor recording a TikTok video.
I mean, there are better places to make TikTok videos, but if you're a backstage wrestler, or if you're a wrestler backstage, I'm pretty sure that exclusive content is going to go down pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the TikTok video before I saw the episode, actually. It's a bit of an odd one, don't get me wrong, but Otis can move. And this is where our notes will start to line up a little bit more, because this is where we go into 3, the women's tag team match with Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan of the Judgment Day versus Naomi and Bianca Belair, current women's tag team champions.
Now, this wasn't a title match. This was just a tag match, which is...
But it did say... we were told on several occasions that this could, if Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez walk
Win.
out with a victory, this could very well mean
A tag team push.
title shot.
It did, yeah. And so obviously this is the second match of the episode that Judgment Day feature in a tag match. We already saw JD and Dom in their match earlier on in the episode. So this one kind of finishes off that one. I haven't got a lot of notes for this one. I did make a note of that both teams going into this were very high energy. There was a lot of flair, and there was some really interesting spots. There was I know Liv Morgan does the move quite a lot. It's one of her favourite ones, but there was I like to call it a slight homage to Y2J there, because she hit a beautiful code breaker at one point on Bianca Belair. There was a couple of double cross bodies as well by the tag champs over on to the Judgment Day. Yeah, I was really into this one. I'm not sure if it's just because Liv Morgan was in the ring, or if it was the fact that I've connected with this storyline quite well. Could be both reasons, to be fair, but no, it was definitely a great match for me.
Yeah, so this match came about after Liv Morgan stole a pinfall against, I believe it was against Bianca Belair on Friday Night SmackDown.
It was,
if
yes.
memory serves. And I didn't get an awful lot of notes for this one either. It was a relatively unremarkable match. Don't get me wrong, I do the code breaker from Liv Morgan, and everything along those lines. But all in all, it was a very relatively evenly matched.
It was
an evenly matched matchup, and it was a solid match. There was nothing wrong with the actual wrestling match. It just was. There wasn't a lot of
storytelling
to highlight.
I mean, apart from the fact that Liv Morgan hit that beautiful code breaker, which Bianca Belair used to hit an EST off. I've got a few bits in there. Dirty Dom obviously makes a distraction at one point. Obviously, like the commentary team made a note of saying he's still in Liv Morgan's bad books. So he's pretty much doing whatever he can to tongue punch that fart box and get himself back into Liv Morgan's good books and possibly back into a more permanent slot in New Day. Bearing in mind we haven't seen Finn Balor for quite a while, since his street fight with Drew McIntyre was the last time we saw Finn Balor, wasn't it?
So his street fight wasn't with Drew McIntyre, it was with Damian Priest.
That's the one.
And he should be looking for a more permanent fixture in the Judgment, not the New Day. Few inconsistencies there.
Yeah, that's my tiredness. That's my bad.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
I mean,
that's cool. I've had about 2 hours sleep in 2 days, so
I think we're both running
on. We're both running on one cylinder at the minute.
Yeah, it's been quite a busy week for professional wrestling this week. With obviously not just our normal 3 shows for Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. You had Saturday Night Main Event in there. We've got Royal Rumble this weekend as well. So yeah, it's definitely, we're in the middle of what is quite a busy week for pro wrestling as it is. And then it wasn't a great time for us to have weird work schedules and other bits and pieces go off. It's been quite an interesting week.
Yeah, it's been quite disjointed this week, but we'll push through. Yeah, as you said, Dirty Dom interfering. I've got a note here that says Naomi ended up taking Dom out of play.
I've got that one as well. I've then got that she hits a split leg moonsault and Raquel Rodriguez drags her off the pin for that one.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately this was gaining a pinfall victory over Naomi this time.
Yeah.
And that's where my notes run out for that one, I'm afraid.
So I've got Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez win. There wasn't really much. There's no afters after that one. It kind of went from the end of that ring into a backstage promo with Rhea Ripley about. She just tipped her hat to Jey Uso and basically said, wasn't worried too much about what was coming up. She was just kind of enjoying the ride and what was coming her way.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many there's not many superstars she worries about, and she was being interviewed about who she wants to win the Royal Rumble, and she gave a typical champion's answer.
Yeah,
You know
pretty
what? I
much.
don't really care who wins the Rumble. But we had probably one of the hardest working
Female.
WWE superstars on the roster today. Bailey jumped in on this one to basically say, "I've won, and I'll win it again." And
Hasn't she
yeah, I'll be facing you in
WrestleMania?
facing you at Mania.
Bailey's been everywhere. We've seen her on every show for the last 2 weeks. So she's done 2 Raws, 2 SmackDowns, 2 NXTs, and a PLE in the process. The word workhorse doesn't even fit with that one, to be fair. Like, her air miles, she's going to be making some miles up.
Yeah, definitely. It's but with this promo, we saw a brief confrontation between Bailey and Io Sky.
Basically just said she'll see her at the Royal Rumble. There's a little bit of bad blood between those two. They used to be friends and now they're not, so that could be an interesting... If those two meet in the ring at the Rumble, there could be some fireworks going off there.
Well, they were both part of Damage Control at one point, and Bailey, as the leader, got ousted by the rest of the team, and Damage Control continued on without her. Now, the next bit got a bit of a bee under my bonnet, I'm not going to lie. So, if you've heard some of the previous episodes, you'll have heard me and Rich talking about the fact that iShowSpeed has been invited personally by
Triple H to
Mr.
the Royal
Paul
Rumble.
Mr. Paul Levesque has been making video calls to iShowSpeed to invite him to the Royal Rumble, and we've been seriously saying that our phones haven't rung, that we haven't had anything come through just yet, and
But Kai Cenat, sorry. He was there at Monday Night Raw, and he's also been invited to the Royal Rumble.
he
so,
actually got invited by Pat McAfee of all people. I mean,
2 of
credit to
Twitch's
Pat.
biggest stars are going to be at the Royal Rumble. Which is, I mean, these guys are fighting against each other at the top of Twitch at the moment for the most subscribers on the platform. So they are very, very popular men.
Yeah, this is it, and yeah, I mean, Pat McAfee's invited Kai Cenat to the Royal Rumble. I think we're potentially starting to tease because every year at
Celebrity match.
WrestleMania, we have a bit of a novelty match. It's never a serious match of any kind. But
It's normally
built
when they've
like a serious match.
normally the one that's got the Miz in it.
Yeah, well, whether you can call any of his matches serious, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's a potential match gimmick with iShowSpeed versus Kai Cenat, possibly on night 2 of Mania. That's normally how it ends. It's normally a bit of comic relief, breaks up the night a little bit, but we'll see how that one goes. The next part of my notes has absolutely fuck all to do with the show, but more to do with the stats to do with Georgia, which I know we
went into a little bit earlier.
we
So
did.
Atlanta is the home to Georgia Championship Wrestling, which is
So this was a wrestling promotion from back in the territory days. Now this is
that's a
sort of way
big
back when.
big go back in history on professional wrestling with that one.
100%. Not only that, but Atlanta was also WCW wrestling. Now that one doesn't go back quite as far, but still.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, it's had 25 Monday Night Raws in Atlanta. There have been 2 Royal Rumbles, 2010 and 2002.
The winners of both of those, the winners of both of those Rumbles. Now, Triple H himself won in Atlanta in 2002, and the Rumble winner for 2010 actually
Rated R Superstar Edge.
Yeah, definitely.
And we've got a slight difference in our notes here because you probably Googled it and I was trying to be clever. I've got down that WrestleMania 32 was held in Atlanta. You've got down WrestleMania 26. So I'm going to go with yours because I know you've hit Google.
In fairness, it bugs the life out of me that they do it all in Roman, because I don't know about any. I weren't taught Roman numerals in school, and I've never really bothered to learn them. You see the, but yeah, they put it up in Roman numerals. I had to try and figure out what those Roman numerals were, and a Google search did indeed tell me that was WrestleMania 27, which the main event for that WrestleMania was the Miz, WWE champion, won John Cena with an assist from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, setting up The Rock versus Cena at the following year's WrestleMania.
Was that the team I Bring It via satellite year?
Yes, it was the year-long worth of promos that we had for
one of the
John
worst
Cena.
WrestleMania matches in history.
It was the first time The Rock had competed in years, and yeah, it just didn't. They overhyped it and then did the same thing again the next year, and it just, yeah, it was the beginning of the end, really. The other thing we saw at WrestleMania 27 was the infamous feud between Michael Cole and Jerry the King Lawler.
They did a little VT about that, didn't they?
They did. They did like a Sports Illustrators breakdown of basically just how pathetic Michael Cole looked in this segment. And I mean, don't get me wrong,
It was very.
that gimmick match that we talked about earlier on. It was comic relief. It was nothing more than that, and it was a way to get Jerry the King Lawler a WrestleMania, because I mean, the guy, while he still wrestles, or was still wrestling at the time, was in no fit shape to take on anybody in the line.
No, he wasn't.
Back in those days. So yeah, no, definitely not.
Yeah, so we went from there. We had a little VT promo for Penta declaring himself for the Royal Rumble, which I'm looking forward to. I say this Rumble's getting more and more stacked every time we see someone else come out and announce themselves for it, and really looking forward to Saturday, to be fair.
I mean, the Royal Rumble is one of my personal favourite PLEs of the calendar, and it's because it's so unique. I mean, we now have two Rumble matches in the same in the same PLE, and that's one for the men,
One for the women, yeah.
Enter, and one leaves with a guaranteed spot at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
You don't get that in any other.
You don't know. And then we went from Penta's announcement into the Royal Rumble into a Paul Heyman promo in ring.
So we haven't seen a lot of Paul Heyman over the last few weeks. Since really the tribal combat on the first night of Raw, and he is obviously still completely elated by the fact that by the result of the
Tribal combat match. And to put a bigger smile on his face as well. Not much puts a smile on Paul Heyman's face apart from when he's got something to rub in someone else's face. And a
lot of his promo for this one was that he is the one behind the one, and very much sort of hyping Roman Reigns, as he is very doing. But what surprised me more than anything else was the pop that Heyman got coming out in Georgia. That surprised me quite a lot.
Yeah, but then Heyman's got one of those. If you look at Paul Heyman's interview series, was it Inside the Ropes that he did? I think that helped a lot getting Paul Heyman across with the crowd, because where he gives away so much, it really helps the casual wrestling fan kind of jump in and understand what's going on. And he's a central mouthpiece in professional wrestling, has been for 30 odd years. So it's nice to have him there, and the fact that we don't see him every week at the moment, like you did when he was with Roman Reigns for a while or Brock Lesnar, it's you get a treat with Paul Heyman. It's not being pushed down your throat. It is the treat that we want him to be, and he's there.
Oh, in fairness, if I'm going in for a run on the WWE choice of who manages me, I'm a Heyman.
Oh, yeah, I'd be a Heyman guy too.
I mean, one of the big advantages to being a Heyman guy in this era is that you end up on the cover art WWE 2K25 as Tribal Chief is announced as the cover art for this year's entry from WWE. And do you know what? They're actually hyping the game quite a lot. And
I'm going to pick this one up. Yeah, I'm going to pick this one up and have a little look at it. So there are two versions of the 2K25 cover. You've got the standard version, which has got Roman Reigns on the front and a small little cameo in the corner from Paul Heyman, which was pointed out by Drew McIntyre when he came out. And then the Ultimate Edition, so to speak, the money grabber, has got the Phenom, the Undertaker, on the front of it.
Yeah, I have seen this around and about, and I mean, it's
Smart.
The Undertaker.
It does, and it just looks smart. It's been well done. The work on it's been really well sort of designed, and it's made the cover really pop. So I'm not sure which one I'm going to get, whether I want to go for the Roman Reigns or the Undertaker, but I will be getting a copy of 2K25, even if it means I get to plum punt you online.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I generally tend to stay away from the online games, only because it has a tendency to go. It gets really sweaty.
Oh, they do. A bit like Rikishi in the cafeteria.
Yeah, pretty much. But yes, you alluded to it. Drew McIntyre comes out being actually quite almost sickly sincere. To,
Yeah. But he comes out saying that
wise man.
Paul Heyman looks nervous and he just needs to relax. The only person that should be nervous is really Sami Zayn. But it was quite funny because he then also comes up. He turns around and says, "You know, we don't really get to talk very much. You know, like we've both been around for quite a while, you know, but neither of us have really had a conversation the time to have a conversation. And the entire time that Drew's talking, the crowd are just chanting they want Roman."
Yeah, the crowd are really vocal in this little segment, which is it's always nice to hear. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, McIntyre goes from there to pointing out that he may actually be the catalyst for the bloodline and everything along those lines. The spark that lit the fire that is the sort of the bloodline storyline, and I can't deny his logic. I'll be honest, he makes a very for it. But this promo basically ends with McIntyre asking Heyman to pass a message to his boy about how at Royal Rumble he is coming to win, but it's not the tribal chief he is talking to, but rather CM Punk. And we've been hearing a lot recently. They've started talking a little bit more about the fact that Heyman owes Punk a favor after Punk went to bat for the bloodline at War Games more recently, and we're starting to possibly get an idea that this may be something going on from their end or something. So yeah, we're starting to get the idea that we may actually find out what that favor may actually be, and I, for one, I'm here for it, and we'll find out. We'll find out when they are ready to tell us what that means. Moving on, we go to a backstage promo with Bron Breakker, who is also declaring himself for the Rumble this year.
Yeah, it's nice to see that the Rumble's kind of picking up some interest and having some of these smaller champions step in as well. Obviously, you know that Bron Breakker is not going to win it because he's holding that title, but it would be nice to see what he can do to affect the rest of the Rumble when it comes out, and whether there's going to be any people that he's going to look to target specifically.
I mean, we could well see that. I don't think his storyline with Sheamus is quite over yet.
No, definitely not.
I think that there's going to be more that feeds into that. So I am.
Well, I'm going to call it here, and I'm going to say that Sheamus tosses Bron Breakker over the top rope to eliminate him, which will continue this feud with Bron Breakker because, you know, he's the champion, and you know, Sheamus should have had more respect than to toss him over the top rope.
That is how it's going to ultimately play out. But yeah, Sheamus so far has not declared himself for the Rumble, so he is going to be an unknown element. We don't know definite be there.
I can't imagine they'd leave him out of the Rumble. I mean, I'm pretty sure, unless he's been injured, he's been in nearly every Rumble that's gone on since he's been part of WWE, including winning one of them.
There's one that sort of switching gears a little bit while you mention superstars that have been in every Rumble match. If we look at the women, there's 2 superstars that have been in each and every one. I believe
One of them
them
Bayley.
is Bayley.
Yeah.
The other one, oh wait, no, it's not Bayley. Bayley has not been in every single Rumble match.
Charlotte
she
Flair?
was a serving champion at one. So the 2 that have been in every Royal Rumble match since the women have had their own Royal Rumble match, one of them is Liv Morgan.
Liv Morgan.
So Liv Morgan has served in every single. Is Natalya? Natalya has been in each and every Rumble match since the women's Rumble was
Introduced.
put in
No,
place.
is Natalya under contract at the moment?
I think she's under some permanent blood pact or something like
Yeah.
she is one of the more underappreciated female superstars on WWE roster. I just don't think she ever quite got what she needed.
No.
And I've said this for years. But she's not currently declared herself for, but I think it.
Yeah, it should be one of those that comes in as a surprise entrant if she does make a move. I'm not sure if you are still experiencing those technical issues with your microphone, but we are getting a little bit of breakup occasionally.
Yeah, I'm seeing it as well. It's why I keep trying to get louder to see if that I'm hitting the gate, because I'm starting to look a little bit like I am, or how much I am close to this freaking mic.
Yeah, that's not an issue. I can. So we went from Drew McIntyre coming out and sort of having his little bit about, you know, Sunday's best to Paul Heyman's boy talking about Punk, not talking about Roman Reigns. I have seen a few things online which kind of interest me a little bit. There is talk of there being a faction of Heyman men, so to speak, where they're a case of we see Roman, Punk, and Brock team up at some point. I'm not sure if that will happen, but there's been some rumblings online. I did read something on I swear it was in the ropes or like something along that online. But
I think it's pure fan speculation at the moment.
I mean, it would be cool to see, but that would definitely be a hell of a tag team, so to speak, if that was to come through.
It's unknown at the moment as to whether Brock Lesnar will actually ever make a return at this stage, because he's still very deeply embroiled in all of the Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
But if we come back to that backstage promo with Bron Breakker, the ending of that promo sees actually Penta come and confront Bron, which gives me reason to believe that may actually.
Well, Penta had a nice big look at that IC title, didn't he? He had a nice look at that.
Oh, definitely, and I think we can. I think it's safe to assume that we may well an IC title in Penta's very near future. But closing out Raw this week was a main event for a men's singles match, including Drew McIntyre versus Sami Zayn.
Right. Well, before we get in there, I've got a statistic for you. I've got two. So, this year will be Sami Zayn's 7th Royal Rumble when he enters the Royal Rumble on Saturday. But did you know that Sami Zayn has never beaten Drew McIntyre in singles competition? He is 0-10 against the Scottish Warrior.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was a few interesting bits to pick up on there. One last thing I'm going to pick up on, I don't know if you did, but this match got bloody.
Oh, I don't think there was any missing. This match got bloody.
Sami Zayn was leaking.
Zayn's nose popped like a water balloon.
Oh, mate, it went everywhere. But I couldn't work out how he did it. I watched this specific move a few times. He hit Hurricane Rana into a DDT, but somewhere he managed to plug himself up, not Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, I don't think. There's a part of me that doesn't think the colour was intentional. At one stage, it looked like it was coming out of it.
The end of his nose, where it seems to be where the cut was.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, we saw actually quite an aggressive side to Sami Zayn within this match, to be quite honest. But
Well, the amount of people he's had in his ear the last few weeks telling him he needs to stop thinking about everyone else, he needs to start thinking about himself. It was nice to see him kind of take everyone's advice on and go, fuck it, this is mine.
oh yeah, 100%. And for a good majority of this, Sami Zayn actually appeared to be in quite a large amount of control.
He was, and which is unusual considering when you look at the guys that Drew McIntyre's been facing recently. And
Yeah,
he's been having some big matches, and to see someone like Sami Zayn go in there and give him something, I don't really think Drew was expecting that to come that way. Especially, like I said, with the fact that Sami Zayn's never beaten Drew McIntyre. I generally just thought Drew thought this would be a squash match. You'd roll him up and count him off pretty quickly. Maybe a couple of claymores, but yeah, no, definitely was not seeing the match going to open up the way it did.
no, definitely not. And yeah, I mean,
I've got a couple of spots here.
So many notes for this match.
Oh, yeah, I see the couple of spots I got Sami Zayn got his nose broken during a Hurricane Rana into a DDT. I generally think that was a possible broken nose rather than just a pop nose. I did get that Drew McIntyre at one point used the ropes to get Sami Zayn off the top turnbuckle, and in the process, Sami ended up catching his royal family on the top rope, and it looked a little bit uncomfortable for him. I sent him to the outside of the ring, where Drew attempted to hit him with what looked like quite a nasty Claymore shot, which ended up with Drew bouncing off the announce table rather than Sami.
Yeah, as well as that, we saw McIntyre end up throwing Zayn into timekeepers as well, and almost forces a count out victory. That was, I mean, literally
that by the skin of his teeth.
9.5.
Well, I got it down at 9 3/4. But yeah, as soon as he got back in the ring, that's when Drew started just teeing off on him, really.
Yeah, this is it. And but credit given where credit's due. I mean, I've always called Sami Zayn the ultimate underdog. There was no quit in that dog.
No.
He was not willing to go down without a damn good fight, and he put up a phenomenal fight.
Yeah, it's one thing, you'll never take the dog out of Sami. can try and take him out of the dog, but you'll never take the dog out of him. He's always going to come back looking for more.
We can definitely tell that you're tired, mate, because it's. I think the saying goes, you can take the dog out of the fight, but not the fight out of the dog.
I mean, yeah.
But yeah, it's it's a really brutal match, which we normally come to expect from Drew McIntyre anyway. But yeah, it's a case that, I mean, Zayn ends up reversing an attempt at white noise from Drew McIntyre, which was a little hat tip to the Celtic Warrior Sheamus, as that was one of his signature maneuvers. Zayn got a couple of near falls, one after a Blue Thunder Bomb, which
He pulled that off really well as well.
I was going to say, it's impressive for somebody of the size of Sami Zayn to be able to pull off a Blue Thunder Bomb on somebody the size of Drew. I mean, that's insane. But ultimately, all of this comes to none as Drew picks up a pinfall victory with. I always refer to these as dirty pins.
Yeah, he rolled him up and used the ropes for support, really, which the ref didn't see until afterwards. And by this point, we'd already had the 3 count.
Yeah, I mean, if the ref doesn't see it, it doesn't.
Yeah, we had an issue last week with the same thing, didn't we? Where someone used the ropes to aid in a pin, and ref saw it after he'd called the count.
Well, we tend to see a lot of the same things in WWE week in, week out, and this week is no different. As after the match ends, Drew just goes to absolute town on Sami Zayn. Cody Rhodes comes out to try to save what's left of Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Owens comes out to attack Rhodes, and all of a sudden it's back to.
It's been the same as it's
back to them again.
Yeah, the same as it's been for the last couple of weeks. Just every opportunity, Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens fighting. I mean, I can't wait for the Royal Rumble just to let them get it over and out of the system. To be fair, I don't think it'll be the end of it, but I think it will take a huge chunk out of the system.
Oh, 100%. But yeah, this Kevin Owens out attack Rhodes. McIntyre joins in. Sami Zayn lines up a haluva kick, but ends up with yet another haluva mistake.
He hits Cody Rhodes in the face this time.
Oh, 100%. And Cody took all of it.
Oh, he did, and he was still feeling that in the promo after the match as well. Like, once all the hustle and bustle had kind of quietened down, you see him sat and doing an in-ring promo, looking up at those championships, and he's still holding his jaw. Like, he
100%.
ate all of it and more.
Oh, 100%. But just at the end of that match, we have the last thing we see is sort of Sami Zayn looking completely distraught. But I think the one thing that isn't going to help Sami's case, because if we think back to the promo we had with Seth Rollins earlier on, is that if you do it once, we can count it as a mistake and move on. But this is now the second time in the second consecutive week that Sami Zayn has been sort of suckered in exactly the same way.
Yeah, Drew McIntyre knows how to play him for that fiddle, doesn't he? He tunes up the band and lets him play it himself.
Oh, 100%. But I don't think Sami helped his case at all by leaving the ring.
No.
I think if he'd stayed in the ring and sort of made sure Cody was okay, because as we've said, Cody at all 150% of that haluva kick. And yeah, I just don't think it's going to play out very well when it comes to the Rumble, because that's when this is all going to this is when the tinder's going to hit, when the spark's going to hit the tinder, so to speak. It's going to be when they find themselves in the ring together at the Rumble.
Yeah, and so we alluded to Cody sitting in the ring afterwards, feeling his face kind of feeling a little bit sorry for himself and probably a little bit pissed off. To be fair, I know I would be.
I don't know about you, but he seemed very sort of space cakey at the same time. I think that that Helluva kick was hit a lot harder than he had anticipated.
Either that or he had a libation on the bus with Jay before he went into his segment. Yeah, he did look a little bit out of it. Which is why I think CM Punk came out to ask him if he was okay. You know, which was a weird thing to see from Punk, because you see him earlier on in the episode and he's just being that cocky, arrogant arsehole that we all know and love, and now he's kind of come out trying to use a phrase that he uses at the end. He's basically just come out to say, look, I know we're friends, but this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And after explaining to him about, we got some statistics here that, Punk says he knows what it feels like being a champion. He was champion for over 400 days when he was in his first spell, but after sort of 300 days for him, he hit sort of like burnout, which is roughly where the point that Cody's got to be at. He's got to be hitting that 300 days. Obviously, he won the title off Roman Reigns at WrestleMania last year, and WrestleMania, I think we said, was about 85 days away from Royal Rumble. So he's pretty much getting into that sort of area now where he's been everywhere, and you see him a lot. So, we see if Cody starts getting burnt out and see where he goes from there.
Yeah, and sort of Punk being very sort of upfront and being like,
Punk,
fight friends or stab you in the back. I'm going to be a real friend and stab you in the front instead. Sort of declares himself and says, look, when I win the Rumble,
I'm coming for you.
I'm coming at your title.
And there was a little bit of back and to and fro between the two of them, but I will say that one thing that I picked up out of this little bit was Cody Rhodes mentioned that when they were at OVW, everyone was chasing CM Punk. He was like the trendsetter, the guy that was, well, he claimed that the CM stood for Chick Magnet. And then now 10 years later, no one's chasing CM Punk. CM Punk's chasing Cody Rhodes, and it's one of those like, I've flipped the table, and if you want this bit of gold sat on my shoulder, then you're gonna have to work for it.
Oh, don't get me wrong. The Chick Magnet stuff is well documented. If you look in the right places and speak to the right people, or listen to the right people speak, you will know from his first day to his last day. Phil Brooks is 100% a ladies' man.
Oh.
He knows how to charm them, and he is not afraid to do it either. And yeah, it's all going to come to a head realistic. I think we are looking at one of our WrestleMania main events.
I'm hoping so.
With CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, and I think we may even find sort of possibly John Cena thrown in there as well, just for a real throwback.
We haven't seen anything of Cena at the moment, and there was, obviously, when he showed up at the Netflix debut, he was very much like, I'm going to be a full-time superstar this year. He's actually been off filming a TV show, so we kind of lied to it. He has, according to his contract, guaranteed WWE this year 38 weeks worth of content. So that should kick in soon. I think we'll see Cena at the Rumble. I know we're definitely going to see Cena at the Elimination Chamber in Toronto in that's a couple of weeks away, isn't it? But 3 weeks away.
Before Cena is declared for the Royal Rumble match, so he has said that he is going to be there in Indianapolis on Saturday, and it wouldn't shock me if we see possibly John Cena turn up on Friday Night SmackDown, possibly have a match to try and shake off some ring rust, because if he's going into that Royal Rumble cold, there's going to be so many reasons why he doesn't win it. I mean,
there is a rumor as well. There is a rumor as well that he's going in at number 3.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I've spoken to who are saying, "Oh yeah, it's Cena's. He's obviously win it. and it's just not the case. He's not going to win it. He's already been billed to perform in one way, shape, or form at Elimination Chamber. That is the match he's going to win to get to Mania.
Right, well, I think that's most of my notes for Monday Night Raw done.
Yeah, that's all of my notes for Monday Night Raw done. So, we've there's been a lot we've unpacked in this week's episode of Raw, and as always, we are now, as we record this, only 24 hours removed from Royal Rumble occurring. So
That episode should be live on Sunday as well. So
yes, we will we'll be breaking that down in a slightly
different way. Yeah, slightly different way this time. We're still testing waters with how things work with this podcast, so we're going to try a new setup for Royal Rumble and see how that works. But no, thank you very much, Adam, for joining me on this episode.
That's okay.
I will see you for NXT.
Yeah, see you for NXT.
Enjoy. Bye.